Welcome to Graham Kerr's Kitchen. It's really two programs in one. This is a series that appeals to your creative side. Food that is sumptuous stuff. How could that be? This is a program about people who want to eat healthy and reduce calories. Actually, it's about food with an aromatic quality that fills the nose. Oh, sure. But it's also about keeping my arteries clean by reducing fat. But it doesn't mean a thing if the food isn't rich and colorful. Maximize the flavor. Okay, but I must have healthy food that I can cook in minutes. I must minimize the risk. So welcome to Graham Kerr's Kitchen, where we get our heads together just for you. And welcome back indeed. I'll tell you what, it's nearly Christmas, at least I hope it is, at the time when you're watching this program. They can be played at odd times all over the world and different times of the year. But boy, for me, it's close to Christmas. And I've got a cookies and cream and raspberry dessert that looks absolutely indecent, and it really isn't. You know, when we actually put out this individual food preference list, and I got back one from Sharon Kotbra, Sharon told me that she didn't like the idea of the dish that I had at all because it had prunes instead of oil in it, and she just couldn't take this, and her sons couldn't take it either. I mean, this is bad news. Sharon, I want to tell you, is from, well, partly from Poland from her mother's side and Bohemia from her father's side. She's got about 20 to 30 pounds of weight to lose. That crept up over the years of 30 years of Bohemian cooking, and it has a tendency to do that, doesn't it, Sharon? Well, anyway, your sons, you say, one is very active and one is rather hefty. Hi, Hefty. Just want to say hello. And I understand that you really did like the prunes and didn't notice the flavor of them at all and just enjoyed this dish. And that you left it, Sharon, overnight in the fridge and it all went goo and gulp and things like that. That's a good idea. You know, when the house is all quiet, then put on the anyway. Here is what your national cooking style is like. USA Southern is your #1 pick. There goes Northern Europe, that's where you live. And here is the Italian back up again. I tried compressing that and couldn't come up with anything. And this is dessert time anyway, so it doesn't really relate. Cookies are a big thing with you. Cocoa you enjoy, which is great. Raspberries are big on your list, so that went very well. And strained yogurt, as one of the techniques that we've been doing, is high up there too. So that's wonderful. Come on through and I'll show you how we make the cookies. Well, you know, the whole principle behind this one is to take a technique, and this technique this time, a kind of springboard off the technique, is how to use cocoa powder instead of full-on chocolate, you know, and chocolate powder and all the rest of it. So this is what happens. By taking the actual cocoa powder itself, the cocoa butter is squeezed out, and you've got a drier mix. How do you get that moisture, that round, beautiful smoothness? Well, here are a few things that you can use. You can use applesauce in the place of the fat which has come from the chocolate. You can use apricots, just sieve them. You can use prunes, which I'm going to use today. Pears can do it as well. And look, if you don't actually have the time to be able to make these sievings, you can get the Gerber baby foods. And if you look for the #1 instead of 2, we got the 2, it's got tapioca in it as well. That's okay. But if you look for #1, that's without any form of starch whatsoever. Okay? And those things will do very well. Now, how does it actually work? Well, if you take a prune, like we're going to do, and take the pitted prunes because they're easier to work with, put on a ½ cup of prunes and a ½ cup of boiling water and let them soak together until they're nice and plump. And then put them in a food processor, and they'll come out, and they'll look just exactly like this, a smooth, rich paste. You combine that with a ½ cup of oil, okay? And you get the same kind of viscosity as you would get from butter, well, not from butter, from the chocolate fat, from the cocoa butter fat. Now, look at the difference about what you save there. This is 3/4 cup of oil. Now, that would be normally the amount of oil in a cookie mix like this one. And that total amount there is 1,445 calories. 1,445 calories. This amount of oil here, and I'm cheating off a little list because I want to get it right for you, is 477 calories. But, you know, nearly 1,000 calories of difference. Putting this together, I've got a sum total of 531 calories and 54 grams of fat, and this is 163 grams of fat in here. I mean, I think that's wonderful. If you can get the same texture, that's the big issue. All right, and one other thing. When you've got cocoa, since that's what we're talking about, if it says on the label Dutch processed, European style, that means that the acidity has been reduced and it's been made alkaline. Now, because of that, when you put baking soda into a cookie to make it light, you need more acid, because normally it would relate to the acid of the cocoa, but no, it doesn't have acidity there, so you have to use yogurt. So I used a little bit of yogurt, and I found that went very well. Okay, all right, let's take this cocoa powder business and put it into action and see what's on the menu today.
Today on Graham Kerr's Kitchen, cocoa cookies and cream, moist chocolate-flavored cookies in a vanilla cream and raspberry sundae.
Okay, now I am absolutely thrilled about my get-up today. I hope you enjoy it. But this is a guy who's going rapidly downhill, which feels very much like me, and it's snowing, of course. And this, I like to think, is I'm dreaming of a white Christmas. I don't think it is, actually. I went to a friend the other day who's a great pianist, and I said, look, can you play this? And I kept on turning it, and he was going, but he said, no, it's unplayable. So I'm not sure what it is, but I'm assuming it's White Christmas. Okay, ready? Let's go. First of all, then, let's get a large bowl up. This is cookie time, and this is kind of slosh it in, you know. So the first thing that we'll slosh in is that puree of the prunes. Now, this is the thing that Sharon thought, there's no way that icky kind of stuff that you take when, you know, things are not too well, and it can't work. But hey, look at this. To that, then, the quarter of a cup of oil. And when you put that together, you've got, that is the viscous base to the whole of this concept. Then you take just 1 cup of the cocoa powder. It's going to go everywhere. You took it, I'm dreaming of a white Christmas. Well, where's the fallout coming from? It's the way it feels. It's powdery and it's very delicate, so it will go everywhere. So you start stirring that in as well. Just incorporate some of that. It doesn't matter, actually, how you stir it in, so long as it gets all in. Now, here is loosely packed. Now, you can have a whole lot of difference in sugar, which is loosely packed, against those which is well packed. Okay, this is loosely packed, and there's 1.5 cups of loosely packed brown sugar, a little recalcitrant bit which is in the bottom there. Good. Okay, stir that up into it as well. Boy, you can just about taste this, can't you now? Quite sweet and delicious. I mean, just tastes like chocolate. I mean, it really does. Now, here, just a little egg white, and these are 2 whites of egg. And these are beaten not until they're frothy, you know, like egg white is beaten, but until it's sort of moderately frothy like that. And then just pour that over the top as well. Good. As a matter of fact, if you've ever, around about Christmas time, get the children involved in this one, they love it. You know, get them up on the counter, anything from 4 years of age. Take a little bit of this and put it separate. About this stage now, separate it into a small bowl and get them at it. Male or female, doesn't make any difference. Isn't that wonderful nowadays? Doesn't make a bit of difference anymore. Boys used to be out whittling sticks, and now we can be indoors making things. Just wonderful. Okay, black, looks great. Now we put in the yogurt. Now the yogurt's important, you know, because it's going to react upon the baking soda. And you see what happens with the baking soda. How about when you've overeaten at some stage? I know you never do that, but say just for a moment that you've overeaten and you kind of feel like this, and you get that acid, you know, in the back of your throat. I know it's revolting, but we've got to talk about it. Well, what do you take? How about baking soda? I mean, baking powder, bicarbonate of soda. Oh, whoop, it goes like this, and it's all gone. The acidity has been neutralized. Why? Well, the baking soda got down there in the acidity in your stomach and did it. So what's going to happen, that whoop, which happens, is carbon dioxide. Huh? And so that's that little bit of gas that we produce inside the cookie and trap it, and that's what makes it light. There we go. All right, so that's stirred up nicely now, all ready to go. Now, that's the basic part of it. I'm going to put it to one side. Now, for the flour, use cake flour, okay? Cake flour is so much better for cookies than regular flour. Now, put half the flour in, and then here, I've got 1.5 cups of cake flour, by the way, that I want sifted, and I know it's this amount, so don't worry. Half a teaspoonful here of baking soda, right? And 1/4 teaspoonful of salt. Now, why the salt? You know, well, it adds a bit of background flavor to the whole thing, and it's really amazing. If you leave the salt out, you can really tell it. All right, switch on. I love this. I saw this once in a catalog, and I hooted. I said, look what they've done now. Unbelievable. You see, normally I do this. But do you know this is fun? Oh, got a bit of cocoa on that. That's what I like about making these sort of things. You can lick your fingers, but then rinse them out of the sink. All right, 1.5 cups, and it's done. There. And you notice how I put, excuse me, there's something, do you know, just recently that I feel terribly important. It's the whole business of cleanliness when you're actually working with food. If you lick your finger and you're going to get into the rest of this dish with your fingers, it's not really on, is it? And so I'm really watching that a lot. I'd watch it at home and watch it here. So anyway, just a small side. So there's the flour. Now, we've got it all done, and the reason I put the baking soda and the salt in halfway through, so I could distribute it through it in a more easy fashion. Now we come back to the bowl again. Now, it's always dry into wet, okay? Dry into wet. Look at this, look at this. This is Christmas. I'm dreaming of an avalanche. And so you just stir it all in together. And now there's nothing to break down or think, oh, look at this. I've got chocolate over my shirt. At last, I have got a spot on me. I was wondering when it was going to happen over all the years of cooking without an apron, and there, got it. That's baking for you. All right, stirring all this in and getting that completely mixed up together. Takes a little bit of time, but hey, why not? I'm going to do something called papufa for you, and that takes a little bit of explaining, so let me explain this as I'm doing this. Papufa is physiologically active, polyunsaturated fatty acid. That's what it stands for. And I invented it. Not the basic technique, but I invented the name. And papufa means virtually without oil. It is a cream-like substance, but yet it isn't cream. All right, so that's it. That's done. Now, I know more than anyone else in the whole world exactly what is happening now in Sharon's home, right? Deja vu. I can see it now. She is turning to her sons and saying, the husband saying, he's not going to put in the grape nuts. Grape nuts. There's just really 1/2 cup of grape nuts go in there. And why? Because it's a question of texture. Now, truly, Sharon, I never do this, darling, but I have to do it this time. It's got to have the texture in for me. Now, if you can find something else other than grape nuts, fine. But the grape nuts do it for me, and they just provide that texture. But look, why not try a small amount at home and try an experimental baking? And if you like it without the grape nuts, then call it Sharon style. Okay, otherwise it's Graham style. And I'll take full responsibility for that. Okay. Put that on side. Papufa. Ready for it? Okay. Now, in the papufa, you've got 2 things which have got to be in the fridge and nice and cold. One of them is the bowl that you're going to use to be able to make this, and the other one is the water. Now, let me take the bowl and I'll show you. Here I've got 9 tablespoonfuls of instant non-fat milk, of dried powdered milk. Okay? So that's put in there. So there's no fat in there at all. Now, obviously, there's no fat in water. So we're going to put in there 1/2 cup right on half a cup of water and put that on top. And it's absolutely vital that it's really cold, and it's smoky cold. You know, right on the outside there now, too. Good, okay. So drop the little beater down there, bounce it to about number 7 on this machine, and start it going. Now, because it is so cold that a very odd reaction is going to start happening to that mix, and it's going to beat up rather like whipped cream. All right, now, if you've got one of these piping bags, and Sharon had to go out and get a piping bag, and I really appreciate you doing that, darling. Sorry about the darling, by the way. If that's a little too bohemian, you know, it's actually very British. We call each other darling a lot. I think it's to do with our intimacy with the royal family that actually causes that. Here, just pour in that. Now, you see, the reason why you fold the bag back like you've got a collar, so that you can scrape it out, and when you're actually piping, you can pleat the top like a curtain, push this down, and then screw that around, and it doesn't come back in your hands as you're piping it out. So it's a nice sort of appearance. And I don't like things oozing up out of piping bags. All right. So this, you just simply pour it out. You can get 12 cookies down this way. Now, you know, if you make them, allow about an inch and a half between cookies. They'll pipe quite proud, and then they'll go flatten out a little bit as they're actually going. So you'll get a dozen, at least a dozen. Okay. Put this into the oven, 350 degrees Fahrenheit, okay, 180 degrees centigrade. Open up the bottom one, and there they are. All done. They spread out just a bit, and they multiply too. It's kind of useful. Take the piece of paper off the top and just lay it out and let them breathe a little bit. They'll be always just a little tacky to the touch. But, oh, they're nice. No, they're just gentle enough. Okay, so this is going well now. Over here, I've got some raspberries, all right? So you take a packet of frozen raspberries, let them defrost, and then using this little sieve with this sock and sieve thing here, which really gets all the pulp out of it and just leaves the seeds behind, you can then scrape that for the back of the... It really works very well, this. So now you've got a red fruited sauce there. Build the heat up underneath it, and with just a couple of teaspoonfuls full of water, don't want to dilute it too much, and 2 teaspoonfuls of arrowroot, okay? Spread that over the top, pull it away from the fire, and just drop that into the top there. Now stir it all in, and when it's nice and creamy and it looks somewhat white, put it back on the heat there again. That'll come to the heat and will thicken, we'll be able to use it. Now, you know there's a little sachets of gelatin? Well, if you take one little paper sachet of gelatin and mix it with 3 tablespoons full of water, you'll get this kind of softened gelatin look. Now, taking some warm water separately and just drop 3 tablespoons full of warm water into the top of that, it'll be enough to be able to dilute this so as to be able to add to the papufa. Papufa is now almost ready. 3 tablespoons full of sugar go into the top of that, and 1/4 teaspoonful of vanilla. And 1 teaspoonful only, this is the only amount of fat in it, of oil. And that's dropped. And that is the whole mix done, with the exception of this little bit of gelatin, which is added into the top. So that's all stirred around. Now you can build the whole dish. You just get hold of a nice-looking dish like this one. You break up a couple of these cookies, like so. Just tear them in 2. And let me see how this is doing here. Ah, this is good. This is just thickening nicely. Ah, and just right. Look, beautiful color too, just like Christmas. And then 3 tablespoons full of sugar. Just drop it onto the top. I mean, after all, this is Christmas. You've got to sweeten it up. And stir that in, and that will dissolve right there on top. Ready for it. Okay. Thank you. Boy. Oh, the sound of electronic equipment. And now this is perfectly wonderful. Put 1 little piece down in the bottom of the pan, and great. And then what we've got is just to add yogurt to it, and we've got 1 cup of strained yogurt. You know, the way that we normally strain the yogurt there, and you just stir that into the whole mix. Just whiz it in just nicely. And look, take this out and drop that in. And then drop in the other pieces of the chocolate. And then drop in a little of the sweetened, oh, look at that, hot and ice cold, and another dollop on the top like this. Well, it's Christmas. Look, they're never going to believe it. And then a little bunch of mint right on the top, and 1 or 2 drops just to say, holly and the ivy and the green, and the green, come on through. Always get this feeling about this time of the year. There we are. The classic is, well, it is a parfait. It isn't far from perfect, but it's a parfait, and it's chocolate parfait. And let's have a look at that. 278 is ours versus the 480. And only 4 grams of fat in total against 42. 1 against 26 in saturated fat. Instead of 79% calories from fat, this is 13. That means you can do it. Cholesterol down to 3. It's ridiculous. It's a gift. 188 in sodium and 53 in carbohydrate. That's because of all the sugar that's, of course, gone into it. All right. Now, take a good hunk of that. Oh, boy. I did this for our daughter Tessa for last Christmas, and the whole family just loved it. I mean, really, it was a wonderful, fabulous time. So please try springboarding. It's an amazing idea. Put a little cream in it if it worries you a little bit, but otherwise, everybody around here says, hey, go for it, buddy. Okay? Well, you know, it's an amazing thing, but even at Christmas, when the kitchen is full of wonderful experiences, we still like to be able to get, don't we, at some pre-preparation in some way. What I actually did this last Christmas was make a double batch and then put these down frozen as individual cookies, you know, for cookie time. They freeze very well indeed, and you need to have a couple of layers of this waxed paper, and put the waxed paper down nice and tight, and then lid on the top, and if possible, fill the whole thing completely full. Of course, put what they are on the top of it again so that you have no surprises. All right, awful if a chap comes back and wants a sloppy Joe and winds up with a Christmas cookie. All right, now here, this is for afternoon tea time, as if you hadn't eaten enough over Christmas. Now, a little of the lower sugar jams, if you make it yourself. A little raspberry jam here. This is very, very couth, the whole thing. It's very British afternoon tea. The royal family could have these, you know, really. And so you put that down that side. And then here, you remember the strained yogurt that we make? We've got the strainer there, and I used it a little earlier on. And then you just dive into the top of this just for a little strained yogurt. Now, this is strained vanilla yogurt, non-fat, plain, except that it's vanilla, so it can't be totally plain yogurt. All right, good. And this I love as a topping on desserts, really. It's worth a second unit going all the time on that one. So now you just sort of spread that out a little bit on that side of the cookie. And then you sandwich the two together. This is really indecent. Look, and you push it so it has that Oreo look to it. And then pour yourself out a cup of tea A little milk in first to save the fine bone china, which of course it isn't. By the way, this is a British tea cosy, and it's filled with herbs, with chamomile and when it heats up, when you get your teapot hot, it's just lovely. You bury your face in it and smell it. It's just wonderful. It's a great idea, by the way. You'll see them in all the catalogues since I mentioned it. All right, and then pour out a good cup of tea, which is really strong and ready for it. Now, this is good. You know, the same sense of chamomile as they plant chamomile into Buckingham Palace grass, you know, when you go for a tea party there, and the smell of the chamomile comes up as people shuffle around and say, hello, Your Majesty, and things like this. Really nice. Oh. Well. God, that was good. God bless. Have a wonderful Christmas. And please forgive me, Sharon, for the grape nuts, but just that little crunchy piece, it's just so nice. Happy Christmas.